It's amazing what some people do for fun. Take the high-endurance competition called the Death Race. The title alone would scare most people away. But we found 3 Canadians who have dedicated months to training for the race where there's no food, no water, and no finish line. Sound enticing? Anthony Robart takes us on the trek.
It's 4 days of agonizing torture. Resting is for cowards and sleeping is only for the weak. The only way to make it stop is to complete 50-plus miles or quit. This is the Spartan Death Race. For 67 hours, more than 250 racers will put their endurance to the test.
Go! Go! Follow! You better be holding on to something.
It's unlike any athletic competition you've ever seen before. There is no starting line and no real finish. Competitors don't stop until they're told to.
This race, they have no clue. They don't know when it starts, they don't know when it finishes, and that's part of the challenge.
Andy Weinberg and Joe DeSena are the creators of the race.
Yourself or a human being can do really well when they know the rules. When you don't know, it drives you crazy. People can't deal with that. They quit for that reason. They quit because of the unknown.
For months, 16 by 9 followed 3 Canadians training for that unknown.
I'm Johnny Waite, and I'm competing in the 2012 Spartan Death Race.
It's December 3rd, 2011, and on the outskirts of Orillia, Ontario, John Waite is preparing for the 2012 Spartan Death Race. It's not your typical workout. It's not done in a gym. John doesn't even know exactly what he's training for. So tonight, this is how he's getting ready for the unexpected. He will stay up all night running countless laps through the woods, do more than 300 burpees, and roll a tractor tire over and over until he can no longer lift his arms, doing it all on no sleep.
The idea of the untraditional training is what makes it work. When I put a tire around my neck and run 5 miles, it seems ridiculous, except that that's the kind of stuff that you have to be prepared to do.
And being a veteran of the death race, John knows what it takes both mentally and physically to finish. But he wasn't quite this tough 6 years ago. Back then, life was too sweet. He was a father, husband, and respected businessman when in 2006 he was asked to run for political office. John poured every penny he had into a political campaign that went nowhere. And before he knew it, he lost his house, his marriage, and ended up living in his car.
I was facing some real hardship and some real challenges, and did have the fortitude to dig in and say, okay, great, I am going to create from here and make something amazing out of this.
It was the point where everything changed. Faced with adversity, John turned to running, getting his mind and body in shape, helping him to rebuild his life, and giving him the fortitude, he says, to finish the death race.
Yeah, I'll finish. I'm 100% certain I'll finish.
I'm Don Schwartz. I'm going in the death race for the 2nd time. I'm going in with a focus on winning. I'm planning on winning. I'm going to win.
On this late December 2011 afternoon in Whistler, BC, Don Schwartz is training. It's a twist on cardio, turning simple everyday chores into a Spartan workout.
Everybody wants to know what kind of cross training I do. Said, well, come to my house and watch. You get to see.
He sometimes chops wood for hours a day.
I just think of it as a normal day. Get up, might be splitting some firewood, helicopter skiing, have dinner with my kids, and after they're in bed, then hit the gym for a little more exercise.
My name's Dan Grudinsky, and I'm competing in the 2012 Spartan Death Race.
Dan Grudinsky is out for redemption.
My goal is to finish. It's as simple as that.
It's his second attempt at the death race. Last year, Dan quit on the very first day.
As I was walking up a hill, carrying a lot of weight on my back, and at a certain point, I couldn't take another step, and I quit. I stopped. I felt pretty ashamed of it, to be perfectly honest.
Here at Mount Royal Park in Montreal in early spring, he vows that's not going to happen again.
How bad?
Dan is working on his strength, wearing a 20-pound backpack while training. On average, Dan exercises almost 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. This time, he'll be prepared.
I've been to a breaking point. I know what it feels like, and I know that all that is temporary. That pain, that discomfort.
Don Schwartz knows what it means to be at the breaking point.
I've been in helicopter crash, a month in the burn unit, in the ICU with people wondering if I was going to live. A month later, shatter both elbows. Continue on, life goes on, you can't give up and quit at that point.
But there were days he did feel like quitting. The helicopter crash left third-degree burns along his face, neck, and wrist. For 4 years, Don had to wear a burn mask to protect his face.
I've been to the bottom of life. I've been run down. I've seen what it's like to be broken down into the small pieces, put myself back together physically, mentally.
Don says if the crash didn't break him, neither will the death race.
I couldn't come home and explain to my kids that I went in the death race and then quit because I was tired, dirty, hungry, miserable, bleeding, or sad, Those aren't excuses.
Next on 16 by 9, running on empty.
Haven't had much to eat. There won't be any sleep. We'll just keep going.
Taking the lead, one grisly challenge at a time.
In Pittsfield, Vermont, competitors gather. The mountainous landscape plays host to the Spartan Death Race. For the next 4 days, its terrain will become part obstacle course, part battleground. It will be man versus race. And early on, the race has the lead.
He vomited, he lost control, he got musculature. He was very lucky.
Canadians John Waite, Don Schwartz, and Dan Grudinsky have spent the last year training for this moment.
We are now going to turn up the heat. The race is starting. Go! Go!
The start of the race is a wave of mass confusion.
Just keep moving, don't get frustrated, and at some point they're going to call it. Or we'll be here all night, which is great too. So.
There is no starting gate or finish line.
You got about 4 minutes to get it done. I'd hustle or you're out of the race.
Not even an hour in, and already muscles are starting to tire.
Next.
As soon as you got that kayak up on over your head, you felt it.
And you people out of the way. Let's go, make a pair.
It's the first official challenge. Carry kayaks and water-filled pipes overhead, weighing roughly 100 pounds each.
I mean, it was brutal. It was all rocks and roots and the entire way up and down the side of this mountain.
The uneven hillside is punishing and unforgiving.
I went down right here and got run over and just kind of popped my knee out of joint.
John, a veteran, is unfazed by people quitting.
There are people dropping out within hours. Every time somebody drops out, you think, I still feel okay. So you use it as a bit of a benchmark, right?
But night is coming, and athletes are about to face a grueling 6 hours, a 25-mile hike, swimming laps, almost 1,000 burpees, all in the dark. It's designed to break down even the most determined.
Middle of the first night, just finished 500 burpees. Whole crew of people behind us. We're carrying pipes up the trail. But haven't had much to eat. There won't be any sleep. We'll just keep going. Not much to see out here, but at least it's not raining.
Don, fueled by adrenaline, has the fortitude to dig in and keep going. But others aren't so resolute. The sun rises the next morning on frayed nerves, including John. When we catch up with him, he has fallen behind. He's run out of food hours ago, and now he's showing signs of being weak and tired.
They said, bring whatever you think you need to survive for a week in the woods. And nobody took them seriously on that, including us. So I went without any of my food. So I've had no food since yesterday. This is the first food we've had. But the fact that one guy who quit said, do you want some of my food, was a bit of a godsend. Speaking of which, here, that's yours.
Dan, determined to finish this year, doesn't let the wear and tear of the race faze him.
My feet are an absolute mess. They're just macerated like nobody's business. I think I sprained my ankle, but nothing too bad, really. Nothing that's going to stop me so far.
Pain is creeping in and injuries are mounting.
Oh, it's so much pain. This is one of the more special views of my feet.
You better be beyond fit if you're going to attempt this.
It's really easy to quit. You just walk over to me and you say you're done.
The race is playing havoc on competitors' minds.
This is the second challenge of 38. You people look like you're dead.
Slowly needling away, breaking them down both physically and mentally.
Oh, man. It's not easy torturing people. Now I understand what Mussolini and Napoleon went through.
This race is unpredictable. In the middle of hours of punishing physical exertion, competitors get a mental curveball.
This is great.
It's really good.
You see this exam?
We got a test. 250 questions. Getting to review all the high school science that I really haven't touched since then.
Joe DeSena is one of the founders of the death race. He says a true Spartan can withstand both physical and mental anguish.
A lot of people take care of their bodies, but they aren't too studious. So this race is about both.
It's been more than 24 hours since competitors have slept, so even the simplest question can be challenging.
That test was very difficult. The questions that I normally would have responded to without even a blink of an eye had me recounting them time and time again.
Dan passes the test, but he's just passed another threshold. This is the hour when he quit last year.
I was happy. That was my moment of elation.
At the top of the mountain, anger is brewing. John, so determined at the start, is slowly being worn down.
It's funny, I'm so much more mentally disengaged this time. The other 2 times I was like really into it and knew why I was there.
Athletes are asked to fill a bucket with rocks and carry it up the mountain.
Steps, 30-second break. That's how we do it.
When they get there, they have to find a stake with an assigned number, and it's driving some of them nuts.
Did you ever find yours, Don?
No.
You didn't find your flight?
No.
28.
Find anything? We're all getting a little punchy, eh?
But they can't move on until they've got it.
That was one that got a lot of people really frustrated, which was the whole point of it.
And this is what they move on to. Racers have to chop their log into 12 pieces and carry it down the mountain.
This one really scared me. They saved up the gnarliest, ugliest, and most impossible to cut logs.
While Dan struggles, this is where Don excels.
Some of those guys have been chopping at the wood for 20 minutes before I got there. So a little bit of fury took over with the axe. This is where I wanted to be. This is what I trained for. That's fantastic.
Now we're getting down to business. Oh! We get it chopped up over top this way, right over the peak, down to Amy Farm. Correct. I know that route. I'm gone. Yes, you do.
Don makes his way effortlessly through the mountains and arrives at the next checkpoint with a sizable lead. He's in first place.
629 dropping out.
John finally makes it through his log and heads out for the same checkpoint. The sun is set and Dan is still chopping away, but he's not going to let this race beat him.
This is kind of tiring. I've been working at this for a little while, slowly getting there. So I'm on my way there. I'll get there. Bye bye.
But further along the trail, John, who made it through the wood chopping, suddenly decides to pack it in.
Don.
DNF. DNF.
I don't like to hear that come out of your mouth.
I know, bro.
I can't believe you're gonna quit.
I know. No, it's awesome. Whoever finishes is gonna be an absolute total rock star. You're awesome.
All right, cool. See ya.
Yeah, for sure. I'm used to being that guy who can get through it. And this time I couldn't. This time when I decided I was done, I was done.
Next on 16 by 9, last man standing or rolling.
That was just horrid. That was sick, god-awful mental torture.
Wins the race.
The obstacles in the Spartan Death Race are designed to disorient, weaken, and frustrate athletes. Overnight, nearly half the competitors who started the competition dropped out. 16 by 9 is following 3 Canadians competing in the race. One is gone. John Waite quit 30 hours in. Now it's the 48-hour mark, and Dan Gradinsky is fighting to finish. Don Schwartz, tied for first place, is going strong. But But this innocent-looking Greenfield he is about to face is going to break a whole lot of those still standing.
And let me tell you, it's not going to be good.
Ever feel like you walked into a room when there's a bucket of water over your head and you should leave? I've got that feeling.
Ribbons mark a course, but contestants aren't going to walk it or run it. Nope, in this death race, you get down and roll 6 times around this field through barbed wire, over broken trees, and under a sweltering tarp. Oh, and one more thing. Every lap, they have to stop to stir this bucket of rotten cow innards.
Get them vomiting, get them vomiting.
That was just horrid. That was sick, god-awful mental torture.
First lap of rolling, 46 minutes, 27 seconds.
At the end of each lap, competitors have to answer a skill testing question.
And if you got the trivia question wrong, your lap was invalid, oh, you better get that trivia question right.
What player squats an average of 300 times during a double header?
Catcher.
Is that your final answer?
All right, that's correct. You are getting an X.
Don has been competing for 3 days straight. He is hours ahead of the pack and thinks a winner is going to be named. But in this race, it's not about how far you've gone or how much you have completed. It's about who can last the longest.
We chose at 53 hours to be smart enough to realize that we need our body parts for the rest of our lives. My daughter last night said, "Oh, Daddy, you stopped." Well, isn't that quitting?
And it's what most racers did. Only 51 of the 256 competitors who started the death race made it to the end, 67 hours later. Dan Grudinsky was one of them. While John and Don quit, Dan, exhausted, blistered, and cut, was still going when the end of the race was called in early morning hours. There was no crowd to celebrate his accomplishment, no one to truly document what he had done. None of that mattered. It wasn't about the accolades. It was about finding limits and pushing past the breaking point.
And that is our broadcast for tonight. I'm Carolyn Jarvis. From all of us here at 16 by 9, thanks for watching and have a great weekend.